So actually I think what I'm going to do is I think I might cut this out of a fairly stout sheet metal, because then that way I can tack it to the arms and everything like that. It'll still be strong enough to hold its form and shape and that stuff, but it'll be a whole lot easier to get this test piece done. You know what I mean? I just need it, you know, it's proof of concept, so as long as it just kind of takes up the kind of space I need it to, we'll be good to go. And so I'm not going to cut any of these out because I'm not going to be using the full width tubing. So basically what I'll end up doing is once this is drilled out and cut the way I want it, I will be able to put it back in here, tack these arms. I'll have to move this one over a little bit since I want the edge right there, so I'll move that a little bit more. Then I'll be able to tack these down to the sheet metal. Then I'll be able to put it on there and see just, you know, if I have to bend these, what kind of angle, and see how they clear that way. And then, oh, excuse me, man, then maybe make it in 3/8. But I'm just trying to, I've got to make it twice, but I'll tell you what, I don't want to spend a half hour making it in 3/8 to find out that, yeah, that's just not really going to work. It's not even close. I'd much rather make it in sheet metal and call it good. Prove it first. All right, I went out and got the piece of sheet metal here. Now, I'll show you this real quick. This is a sheet metal gauge. It's for sheet and plate. It's General number 21. I bought it at a welding store probably. I don't remember offhand. They're actually fairly spendy. I might have ordered it through Enco. They're more money than you'd think they'd be because they got precision gaps and that stuff. But they're really cool. Around the outside edge, you have the gauge. Okay. On the back side, for that same hole, you have the inch increment. So, like 0.140 right there is 10 gauge. Okay. So if you have one of these in hand, it's really easy to tell. Which basically all you have to do is just keep trying it in a slot. Now make sure that your metal doesn't have any burr there. Okay. If you have to, knock it down with a file or whatever. These edges were cut with a shear, you can tell, because they're just kind of rolled a little bit there. This edge I cut before, you can't even see that, it's on the camera. Anyway, this is nice and clean. I don't have any burrs there, okay? And it's really not that critical. Okay, so I can't get this one on. And that one's just a hair loose. That one's 15 gauge, the other one's 16. I would be willing to bet that this is 16 gauge plate. You know, that's what it would be called. I don't know what the tolerances are. Anyway, not the point of this. I just wanted to show you that. So I've got plenty of material here. Normally I would try to figure out the way to keep it from taking up. If this was 3/8, I would try to make it to where an edge, where I didn't have to cut an edge. The less edges I have to cut, lines I have to cut, I would do it like that, and that saves me. But this is sheet metal. It's going to cut really easy on the bandsaw. So I'm going to turn it this way because it'll just save me just a little bit of material there. And let's just trace it out. I'm not worried about the holes in that stuff because what I'm going to do is, once I get the outside shape done and that stuff, I'm going to put it back in there like I did this cardboard. I'm going to take the steel piece. I'm going to line it up in that jig, and then I'm going to go through like we did before with the transfer punch and a scribe, and I'm going to mark these holes so I can get them accurate. If I did it here and then tried to drill them off the cardboard, that's an extra step in there that adds a discrepancy. I wouldn't, you know, there's going to be a certain amount of discrepancy transferring those holes to the cardboard, then transferring the cardboard to holes to the sheet metal adds another one. I can just take this out of the picture, put this piece back in the jig, punch the holes, and eliminate that second source of discrepancy right in the middle there and get it much more accurate. All right, we're going to play with two different methods of cutting this here. This is a Harbor Freight. This is a sheet metal shear, okay? Right on the side it says good for 14 gauge, okay? Now I measured this to be a loose 15, pretty close to 16. So this should work. The lower the gauge number, the thicker the material. Okay, so 0 gauge is going to be big, thick plate. 22 gauge is going to be thin little sheet metal, even probably thinner than you see on most cars. But anyway, we're going to try this. We're also going to try the cutoff wheel, just to give you an idea there, the difference between the two. You know, between the two, I would buy the cutoff wheel. You don't need one of these. The nice thing about this is it leaves a nice clean line. It's quick, it's clean, doesn't leave grinding spatter all over the place. It just makes a big burr, basically. Not a burr, but a chip, big long string. So let's pull that in a little bit. Let's make a couple cuts with it and see what it does. Basically, it's variable speed, and it's just pulling that jaw up in between there. So it's going to make a 1/4 inch wide cut. So I'm not going to try to follow that curve. I'm going to do that with the bandsaw. I could keep trimming it with this, but it's always best to have metal on both sides of the jaws as opposed to just trying to cut with one side. Okay, you can do that, but since this is pretty close to the limit, I don't want to. I don't want it to twist and bind the jaw in there and cause any grief there. So if I can hold the plate down. Oh, nice. Well, luckily I have a spare set of jaws, but it started off quite nicely. Yeah, so much for. I usually love Harbor Freight tools. That's not a good sign. It just broke the jaw, broke the cutting blade. Oh. And I don't know if maybe that was my fault because it started to cut it beautifully. I don't know if I twisted it or whatever. Oh well. Okay. Well, we'll set that aside and we'll cut it with the. We'll cut it with the other. Wow. So much for that. This is just loud, obnoxious, noisy. The other way is really actually kind of nicer, but oh well. Now what you'll find when you're using these cutoff wheels to, the thin ones to cut sheet metal like this, they wear out faster. I can cut 3/8 inch steel with it and go through them more slowly than cutting sheet metal, and I'm not sure if it's because when you come in at a hard edge, there's a little vibration there that chews it up. I don't exactly know, but I do know that sheet metal wears out the blades a whole lot faster than thick stuff. So what I'm kind of saying there is if I put this down like this and run it into where it's closer to 90 degrees to the blade, tangent to the circle or whatever there. Actually, it's not tangent. Perpendicular to it or whatever. It'll wear it out faster. If I ride up on the surface, the blade will last longer. I got plenty of blades. I'm not too worried about it. The further you're in, the faster it'll cut, but you'll lose blade life. So that's basically the trade-off there. Now, by stopping a little short and bending that, I saved having to run, 3/8 inch cut up either side. If you're tight on material, that's important. In this case, it's not really. So this is fairly flat. Certainly flat enough for what we're doing. We'll go do some cutting on the bandsaw. Okay, so another thing here is, if you can see this or not, there is a big burr. Okay. Almost 1/8 of an inch in some spots, 1/16 of an inch minimum all the way around, and that's from the 4-inch cutoff wheel. Because as it's cutting down, it's heating up, melting that metal, and just pushing a burr down to the bottom side. So we're just going to clean it up real quick. These shears would not really leave that, so that was part of the reason I wanted to use them. Oh well. I did a very light tap there like that. You really don't ever want to grind like that because it's going to shoot this thing down into you, your leg, your stomach, whatever. Something maybe a little more important. You know, it's always better to do it like that. I did it just really light. So don't think that you can grind like that. Just be forewarned that it can catch and shove it down on you. All right, bandsaw. All right, you guys get bored and annoyed of having to watch every single step like this. Say something. Otherwise, I'll keep doing it. I like watching it when I see it on other people's stuff. I like to see their technique, tools, all that kind of stuff. So, okay, when you're cutting on a bandsaw, there's pretty much always, at least any bandsaw I've ever used, there's what's called, I believe it's called a bias, okay? So when I push it in there, if I were to try to cut parallel, if I put a rail here that was parallel to the blade and I cut, the blade would actually cut at a slight angle. So I'm probably going to end up here having the line cocked just a little bit in order to cut straight against that. Part of that has to do with the fact that the one side of the blade gets flattened out just a little bit more going through the contact rollers and the drum. It's not supposed to. Maybe on a better quality bandsaw it doesn't. And also it partly has to do too with the fact that these rollers, which you can't even see, there's bearings above and below here, they don't hold the blade perfectly at 90. And I have never taken the time to try to shim everything. Anyway, boring crap for the day. None of this is very important, so I really don't care too much about that bias thing, but I just need to get it close. And I'm using the small bandsaw because I've got a fine pitch blade in it. I'm not quite sure offhand what it is. It's 14 tooth at least, whereas the other one's like an 8 or 10. And on sheet metal, when you're cutting something, you always want at least 2 or 3 teeth in. Otherwise, that's how you start breaking teeth. When you got really thin stuff, you know, I mean, I can't get one much finer. I'm not going to keep swapping out for something finer. But if I put this sheet metal in the bigger bandsaw blade, I would get a bunch more. It'd fight me a whole lot more. It might cut a little faster, but I'm running the risk of breaking teeth and stuff like that. The biggest reason I do it is I have a table on here that extends past the blade, gives me something to sit on. The other one barely has anything, and with the hydraulics, it's a pain in the ass to put it up and down. This thing's so much easier. So a couple of reasons why I use the small bandsaw. And I can hold to some curve, but not a great deal. And considering how fast the belt grinder takes metal off, I don't care about being that close. I'll just clean that up on the belt grinder. Had there been a burr on that edge there, I would have sliced the hell out of my finger, huh? Whoa, see the bias of the blade there? Take it off in a different direction. If you notice, I kind of braced my finger on there so I didn't jump into the blade when it went through. Okay, if you saw what I did there, I kept coming in and using the gap of the previous cut to let me bend and turn a little bit more. Okay, so now I've got these lines cut in here like this. Now I can come back and clean up a little bit more, and then I'll just round that off on the bandsaw. So I'm trying to pick an angle where I can shoot at the end of that cut. Okay, and I could sit here and kind of play with this if I didn't have the belt grinders. You know, it's not really good practice, but you can sit there and drag across the blade a little bit for shaping, or you can keep coming in and whittling more off. But I think I'm just going to clean it up on the belt grinder. All right, let's see what we get here. It's already getting kind of warm, so one downside to the belt grinder: generates heat, a lot of heat, fast. Okay, now I can't quite get in there like that. Let's see if I can turn it at an angle. Well, can't even turn it at an angle. I'm just kind of carefully going along the edge there, and that is wearing down the edge of the belt. Not exactly great for it, and I don't need it perfect. I just need it kind of close. If I need it, once it wears down a little bit more, I can track it over a little and get that edge closer and grind some more. But I've kind of worn it out a little bit. So let's see if we can get the burrs off. Should be close enough we don't cut ourselves. So we're going to transfer. I want to get the holes in here now. Okay, so lay that out. There we go. This is the top side. Let me put a couple of T's on so I remember. Anyway, we're going to put it in here. We know that it's this edge is right up against it. I know that these outside edges should point, you know, pretty parallel kind of thing. So, oh, actually, we can do this. We can put the cardboard template back over it and get the template lined up on the sheet metal. Now line up the holes that we had drawn in there, and there we go. Now it's not going to sit quite flat because that, what do you call it? The sheet metal's fairly thick, 140 thousandths, something like that. Oh no, wasn't that? It's more like 100 thousandths. Anyway, that'll hold it down there so we can do the scribing and that stuff. So now there's several different kinds of scribes here. I've got here. This one's, I believe, just a cheap Harbor Freight one. It works just fine. We just need something that's going to mark the metal. Okay. I think this one came from, yeah, it's Craftsman, so it came from Sears. This is a better quality, harder metal. I've had it for a lot longer. Works nice because when you're in a really tight spot, you can actually use the other end there if you have to. Then these, I think these are tungsten carbide, something like that. You can actually write with them if you want. It's just kind of preference. See, this one doesn't have a pocket clip. You can get one with a pocket clip. Not exactly sure how or why I ended up with so many. Anyway, we also have the transfer punch. So let's start with the transfer punch. Okay, that's our holes. That's going to be fairly close. And we'll just pick a scribe here. And I don't mind having the hole a little bit oversized. And I got a big burr on the inside here that I didn't realize was there before. I would have taken it out. So I'm kind of going in at an angle. If you go straight down because of the taper, you know, or more exaggerated here, the thickness of the thing, you know, that's scribing a line 1/8 of an inch inside the hole where I actually want it, and I don't want to have to try to guess 1/8 of an inch there. So I'm kind of coming in at an angle so that it lines up right under that wall. That's the point of that. Anyway, that's it for scribing. Let's see about drilling and cutting some holes.